and the man, fat and swart, between those thighs. Then madness. He had killed them both, had left them lying nude and dead and bloody. He used the knife he always carried, the small and beautiful knife with the Zolingen steel blade. It wasn't a switchblade, but if you knew what you were doing, you could flip it open quickly with one hand. He kept it sharp, kept it well-oiled, and he had flipped it neatly, expertly. Then, he had cut their throats. He dug the pack of cigarettes from the pocket of his flannel shirt, popped one between his lips, and scratched a match to light it. He sucked smoke in, shook the match out. A thin jet of smoke trailed out from between his thin lips. "Much further?" The cabbie was a Cuban. He said no, it wasn't much further. Turner nodded to himself and sat back in his seat. Double murder. He hadn't even attempted to disguise it. Had closed the bloody knife, dropped it in his pocket, and had gone off to get drunk. He got very drunk. He spent 2 days drinking, and he woke up on the edge of a marsh south of Charleston. His shoes were gone, and his wallet was gone, and his watch was gone. The little knife, strangely enough, was still in his pocket. He ran south. He went through Georgia and Florida, and he wondered how far they were from catching him. They had an old photo of him that they printed in the newspapers, had his fingerprints on file, and it was only a matter of time before they caught him. Sooner or later they would get him. Then they would take him back, put him in jail, try him, convict him, hang him. Justice came quickly in South Carolina, so he had to get out of the country. If he stayed in the States, he was a goner, at 34. That was too young to die. He had to get out of the country, had to get down to South America. You could do that if you had the money. You could buy new citizenship, set yourself up in business, carve out a neat little niche for yourself. But it took money. He grinned. It was a brief grin, an almost imperceptible upward curving of the thin lips. It was gone almost instantly. They were going to give him the money. They were going to give him $20,000 beautiful dollars. 20,000 goddamn beautiful dollars. Enough to get him out of the States. Enough to put him in Brazil. To buy him Brazilian citizenship. To set him up neatly and permanently. 20,000 beautiful goddamn dollars, and they were going to hand it to him. The cab pulled to a halt, and the Cuban driver turned to look at Turner. The Cuban smiled easily. "We are here, mister." Turner nodded. The meter read $1.50. He gave the cabbie $2 and told him to keep the change. The driver smiled again, showing bad yellow teeth. He asked Turner if he wanted to find a girl, a pretty girl. Turner stepped up onto the sidewalk and told the cabbie to get lost. He waited until the cab pulled away, then walked into the restaurant. It wasn't much of a place. It had a sign in front supplied by Coca-Cola. It had cracked linoleum on the floor and an ancient Puerto Rican hag behind the counter. The windows looked as though they had never been washed. The clock said it was 20 minutes to 9. Turner was early. He took a stool at the far end of the counter and turned so he could watch the entrance out of the corner of his eye. He ordered black coffee and a plate of rolls. The waitress brought him a basket of sesame seed rolls and a cup of coffee. It was hot, bitter, and strong. He ate 2 of the rolls and drank some of the coffee. $20,000, and they were giving it to him. He lit another cigarette. It wasn't that simple, he thought. First, he had to commit a murder. One murder to make up for the other murders. One planned killing to get him out of the jam that a double unplanned killing had placed him in. Only there was a difference, because that double murder had involved people who didn't matter. A cheap waterfront slut and a fat, dark dock walloper. No one important. This planned murder, this 20-grand homicide, this was different. He wasn't going to knock off just anyone. He was going to murder Fidel Castro. Geraldo came into the restaurant at 4 minutes to 9. Turner saw him out of the corner of his eye, but did not turn around. He picked up another roll and took a bite of it, then washed it down with more coffee. He was working on his second cup.